Because when you go into retirement and you want to go through your retirement with worry-free that you're going to be able to go through it. I mean, ideally, we all want to succeed. We want a crystal ball. It'd be very nice to be able to know, if we made it 30 years in retirement, that we succeeded. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And to make sure we do succeed, there is two types of investors that I have known over the years that I know have done extremely well with building wealth. And they build wealth by killing two birds with one stone. One of the ones I'm talking about is a landlord that owns rental property. If they own rental properties, in other words, they own maybe 20 properties or 30 properties, or maybe they own a few apartment complexes, that's the asset that they've accumulated, and it's taken them time to be able to pay off the balances and so forth, so that way whenever they do go into retirement, they can enjoy passive income. Also, when I think of another successful person that accumulated assets is a farmer. A farmer's asset is the land. And so what they do is they utilize the land by actually having crops. When I was growing up, it was tobacco. Now it could be corn, or it can be wheat, it can be soybean, it can be many, many things that farmland can be used for to create income that can sustain them, and most importantly, be able to maintain their farmland that they originally purchased. Again, both of them, it took time, but over time, the farmland or the rental properties went up in value over time while also collecting income. Well, when you go into retirement, you want to think about the farmer or the landlord, not the way most people are actually doing it. This is suicide to one's retirement. And so let me give you an example of what I mean. So I'm going to use an example of a farmer. And this is exactly what people are doing when they invest their money in a portfolio, because everybody is focusing on growth. So if you think about it for a moment, you have a growth portfolio because you want stocks and maybe some bonds and a mixture of so forth. But the primary focus is growth. We all want growth because that's what we're being sold whenever we go to the financial advisor's office, or maybe our favorite financial advisor, is they say, okay, what got you to retirement is going to get you through retirement by using the same very vehicles. And this is a mistake by comparison when it comes to like a farmer. So if you think about it for a moment, you're focusing on growth. So let me tell you the problem with that. A growth portfolio today, and let's just say it's got 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds. That's the most typical formula today used for people in retirement. So we got 60% and 40%. So when I think of that, I think of a Vanguard balance fund. And the typical income today on a Vanguard balance fund is about just under 2%. So let's just round it off to 2%. What I'm talking about is the formula when it comes to calculating income on stocks and bonds is based on interest and dividends that are paid to you. And so growth comes in a form of the value of the assets that you own. And in your case, you own shares. That's your ownership. If you're looking at it, and I'm going to do this by comparison, if you're a farmer, you own acres. And so when you own acres, that's the value that goes up over time if you can maintain the acres. The question is how much income are you getting from your portfolio? It's the same comparison. So what we find, if you have $1 million today, right now today, in this 60-40 portfolio, you're getting about $20,000 a year from the from the interest and dividends. It's going to be paid to you regardless of what the markets do. Now, if you have a financial advisor that's actually charging you for this type of portfolio, you got to subtract 1% or $10,000 from that, because most people will hire an advisor going into retirement, which means your income, what you're spending from the is $10,000. But you need $50,000. So where is the $50,000 going to come from if you got $1 million and you're insufficient by $40,000? So that means you have to come over here in this column. Okay, by comparison here, you got to sell shares. Now keep in mind, the markets are volatile, right? The markets are doing this, up, and all. I mean, they go all over the place. So the share prices change. And so you're selling shares, and when you sell shares, you're giving up ownership, just like if you were a farmer and only getting 10,000 out of crops, and you have acres and you don't have enough to be able to come up with the $50,000 from your crops, because you need 50,000, that means you got to sell acres as well. So when you look at this right here, this is exactly the reason why people are every year unknowingly, or they're actually selling shares, eroding their principal over time in hopes that the share prices are going to go up in value with what they have left. So if a farmer sold, maybe if they got a 200-acre farm, they may have sold 3 acres the first year because maybe the market's, land value was stagnant. The same way over here, but at a much higher level. Why? Because shares, it makes up a smaller dollar amount. So in other words, this person's eroding principal because they're selling acres. This one guy's eroding principal. This is you're selling shares. And when you give up shares, you also, the following year, keep in mind, this is that every year you're doing the same very thing. You're getting $10,000 a year in dividends, and you got to go start all over. So you got to hope that the markets will go up to be able to replace the shares that you sold. And it's a never-ending process. This is why people are going broke slowly but surely. It goes unnoticed in the first few years. It's kind of like, every winter, we get snow or we get ice. But yet, what happens to the roads? They start putting salt on the roads. And I'm driving my truck up the road and down the road for about 2 or 3 months out of the year, dealing with salt coming up onto my vehicle. What happens to salt if I don't wash it off my vehicle over time? It deteriorates. It's the same way here. You're going to your portfolio slowly but surely is diminishing. So you're cannibalizing your principal because your focus is more on growth, and that's what this portfolio is designed to do, in hopes that it will have more recoveries than losses in the future. Knowing out of the gate you're going to be selling shares. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. And by the way, this is not what we do for our clients. We actually get the I up. In other words, we increase the I by focusing on income first portfolios, where we can get the income up to 40 to 50,000 a year from the I Therefore, I don't have to sell acres if I'm a farmer or sell shares if I'm in the stock market. It's the same concept. So more on that in the coming weeks.